Yeah, y'all ready for this? Yeah, well, no, it's officially recording, so yeah, you're ready for this.
Official.
Yeah, it reminds me of I think was it Space Jam when they have that song. It's like y'all ready for this, and then it has like that pump up music. Yeah,
Oh yeah. You can't go to a basketball game or really any sporting event without listening to that song.
yeah. So just imagine that as the intro to this, even though that's definitely not the case. But imagine that energy and hype.
Okay. Okay, I'll get there.
Yeah. How are you doing this fine evening?
I'm hanging in there. I'm pandemicking.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, that's a thing nowadays.
It's interesting to think, not even think, just kind of like compare where we were in March to where we are now, because it's really stark and kind of dark.
Well, I remember we all freaked out in March, like we shut everything down, all the schools were, and now here we are and it's like, we're at higher percentages, but we're like,
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's interesting too. So, because I remember when it first broke the news that it hit the US, I was paranoid because not much was known about it. And I'm like, if I go to the store, am I going to get it? And not everybody, the fact that nobody was wearing masks at that point and people were just walking around freely, and then they would look at people weird for wearing masks. Like it was like one of those like Twilight Zone moments.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Serious. I would get so angry. Like, I was like, every time I'd see a person without a mask, it's like, why aren't you wearing a mask? What, of course I didn't say anything to them. I don't want to like harass people, but I hate them.
Yeah. Well, it's like, because I remember I didn't have a mask until like, I think mid-April, I think maybe mid-May. I don't know. It was like when they, first started definitely recommending it, but
Right.
I was wearing a scarf. And my first thought, like wearing the scarf, I'm like, if I have to wear this thing during the summer, I will fucking go nuts.
I know. We're like, it's just going to be a couple months and then it'll be fine. Or it's just a couple months. I remember thinking like, yeah, the kids will probably just this little bit and then they'll go back to school, And if you like go back and listen to like some of the news reports or just even like social events that, even like reality shows being filmed back then, it's so funny because they're like, oh, it'll be fine. It's so funny how it was like, so naive, like, oh, it's just toilet paper. Everyone will be fine.
Well, that's the thing too. Like toilet paper of all things.
Right?
Like I'm like, I don't think toilet paper wiping your butt prevents you from getting the virus. So why are people going crazy for toilet paper?
Yeah, I know. Well, and then it bugged me in Utah because everybody already had, a lot of people in Utah have a stash. Like they already have a store in their house. So it's like, oh, Utahns are going to be so awesome because they're so charitable and they've got all this stuff packed away. Like we're going to be fine. And like you still can't get a sanitizing wipe to save your life. Like it's like the lottery when you find the sanitizing wipes. It's like, oh my gosh, I got wipes.
Yeah, well, and the fact people in Utah would buy a crap ton of toilet paper and then try to price gouge people on Facebook.
Oh my gosh, the selling. Oh my
It was like, what kind of reality is this? It was like they were living in an apocalyptic world before it even like went apocalyptic.
They were preparing for sure. They're the ones that are like, we got to get our alcohol to barter,
Oh yeah. It's like, oh, hey, how many soda caps do you have? Like.
Well, and then they're the same people that are selling the like PS5s now at Christmas for like $1 million. Such assholes. Oh my gosh. I feel bad for parents. I see my kids, I'm like, you're not PS5. You better come up with some money if you're gonna get a PS5. Santa can't afford that.
Yeah, well, so I've actually almost bought the PS5. I've been this close, not through like buyers like that, but like through the actual website. And then all these bots will come in and screw everything up and just like, what? And then, like I was telling you before we pushed record, I bought a new video game that because I don't game often, but I could definitely see that it's testing the hardware of the PS4. And I just bought a 4K TV as well. And I'm just like, I kind of want a PS5 because it'd be a nice upgrade.
Oh, I know. Well, you always have to have the next one. Like, it's just the way it works.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I remember back when we had like Game Gear and we're like, oh, this is this is it. This is all we need. we thought there's nowhere else to go then.
I remember I used to have a Game Boy Color. It was like a purple
Yes.
see-through one. And then I
Oh
would use because they had like the little, I don't know what they call it, a USB port, or it's probably not even that, but it would be compared to the USB port where you'd plug in a flashlight because the screen wasn't like lit up.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I would use that flashlight to actually read books at night.
That's so funny. Yes, I remember that. Those are it. Game Boys are like the coolest.
Yeah, it was like the first Game Boy, and then Game Boy Color, and then Game Boy Advance, and then Game Boy something. I don't know. I lost track after Color, so
yeah, you can't keep up. I can't anyway.
But all right. Well, let's have you introduce yourself. So for those who are watching, they could put a voice to the face, a face to the voice. Yeah.
Well, my name is Julie Cordell-Seamons. I lived most of my life here in Utah, and I'm a local actress. I do some script writing, and I'm a baby comedian. I just started. I've been doing some stand-up and stuff, and kind of exploring that whole area until before the pandemic hit. No, it's not as readily available. It's not as easy to like test your jokes or do things like that online. It's such a different environment. So, but eventually I'll be back and doing stand-up.
Well, that's actually, I didn't know that about you. I didn't even know that you wrote stuff. I just know that you were an actor, and for like backstory, you and I've been on a couple podcasts with Patrick on the Gaggle Geeks, but I didn't know you were in a stand-up.
Yeah, well, it's been so, like I've always thought like there's no way I could do that because that's like the scariest thing I've ever thought of. And then once I started working towards it and writing more, it just seemed like such a natural thing. Like, so I've loved it. But one thing I've learned for sure is like know your audience. Like sometimes coming into like a Utah bar, I'm kind of more of a progressive. So I'm like, I might make some jokes like how, a woman definitely could be a president or whatever. And then, Bubba comes up to me to be like, oh, I think that a woman could be president until she gets mad, has her period, or, whatever it is. And you're just like, okay, thanks, Bubba. Or I've had them come up and I think they might feel sorry for me a little bit because that's another thing I've learned. Like it's okay to make fun of yourself but you don't want to make them feel bad for you. When I kind of tell my story, how I grew up in Utah as a non-Mormon and, really like in a funny way, because there's funny things that could happen, but I think it touches some people, because they can relate. And so I've had people come up and talk to me about that before as well. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. When there's also, so like a lot of my friends, they've gone out of the church already after serving their mission. Like, how long was it? Like, 6 years ago, maybe. I'm 26. So however long ago they served the mission. But like hearing the story is like the most tragic story ever. Like it's like this huge thing, and it's such a simple thing to do though. Like, so yeah, I think, and you mentioned Utah's scene, like in bars, like with Bubba, right?
Right.
Utah's very diverse with the kind of people we have, and I think it depends on the county you live in because
Oh, for
a lot of Utah's poor decisions that makes like headline news isn't reflective of like Utah's capital necessarily. It's like Utah County and uh what is it? What else is there?
sure.
Cache Valley, Sanpete, yeah. And it's these counties that are like super not what Salt Lake is, and so it's really
Right.
it's really diverse and interesting in that sense. But um, yeah, and I've noticed that Utah, depending on where you are, they have a lot of different accents. Like they'll talk like they're
Yeah.
from the South when they're not from the South at all.
Oh, for sure. Utah, and there is like I think there is like a Mormon accent. Um, I really do. Just from living here for so long, like there's definitely we have a little bit of that Valley girl kind of mixed in with maybe like a Midwest Southern. Like
Yeah,
you put it all together and then kind of make it stale, and that's Utah.
yeah. No, I think that's a really good description of that. I remember, I think it was a couple of years ago. I went on a trip with my brother. Like it was like at 9 o'clock at night, and he was in our state because he lives out of state, but he was just visiting the family, and he wanted to buy a Nerf gun. Like it was like an automatic Nerf gun, and he met somebody from is it Tremont? Is that how you say it? Tremonton? Tremont. I think it's
Uh-huh.
Tremont. So I went with him, and it's interesting because like it's not a small town necessarily, and they're not on the outskirts of like 80 towns. Like they're everything's relatively close up there, and it's not even, it's like maybe an hour and a half from Salt Lake. So like it was like stepping into the Twilight Zone though. It was like camo everywhere and weird farmer accent. Like, it was just I don't know, very
It
culturally
is like little
interesting.
time pods. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll see it like, cause there's a town down there by Cedar City that's like a total dry county. Like you can't get alcohol anywhere. And I grew up in Utah County and like you could not buy alcohol or beer on Sundays. If you walked past that section in the grocery store on Sunday, like they had all the lights out in that area and they'd have a sign
Seriously?
yeah, like they would turn out the lights where the beer was and stuff, like make it look like it was close. I just remember that, and like that didn't even change that long ago that they started selling beer on Sundays in Utah County. It wasn't that long ago that they changed that.
It's so weird.
No, that Salt Lake is different than Salt Lake is definitely the most progressive, and it's where it's where you want to be.
I love Salt Lake. Because I grew up in Davis County,
Mhm.
in like the Woods Cross area, but living in Salt Lake now, like it's definitely more vibey with me, and
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I like the city life. I really do. I know it's not
Yeah.
for everybody, but it's nice.
Yeah, if I didn't have, I don't know, with the kids it's hard, but I would love to just live downtown. That'd be so dope.
That'd be
But
expensive.
yeah, well, you can't really like the people that live down there. I know, and they're all with the new buildings they keep building, like the condos, the luxury condos. Like they're not. There's no affordable housing in Salt Lake. Like that's why you want to be there, but it's
Yeah.
expensive.
Well, and now too, I was reading a thing. Salt Lake's seen an increase in crime since last year, but it
Oh,
kind of it correlates with like the nationwide crime that's been on the rise. Um, but the homelessness is a huge rise that they thought they had under control, and then out of nowhere they just gave up. Is what it seems.
well, they don't. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They think that they can go in there and throw, like they're doing it today. That like the cops are down there taking people's tents and their blankets and their things that they have, and they're throwing them in the dumpster. They're saying it's the health department says that they have to do it. They don't let like activists and volunteers in to help the unsheltered. So it's a psycho. Like they have the whole block blocked off with police officers, tons of them, so that the health department can come in and steal all their stuff, basically. It's nuts. And then they're like, well, they always say, well, there's beds, there's places you can go, but the volunteers are the ones that are making the phone calls and there's no beds or there's no place to go. It's like there's always, always, always going to be people that want to live on the street or have to live on the street. We have to find a way or a place or something.
Yeah.
Like you can't just keep taking their shit and pushing them and pushing them. That's not helping anything. So yeah, that's one thing in Salt Lake. It's happened over and over again. The Operation Rio Grande, and they definitely don't know how to manage the homeless. I don't know what the answer is, but whatever they're doing is messed up. So that's not the answer. That's for sure.
Well, then they were talking about like relocating the homeless shelters and stuff. I think a couple of years ago, and it's just like it's not. I don't know.
They destroyed the roads home. They took it down, but they never put up another one in its place. It's like, hello, it's insane. They make being homeless a crime, and if we could just, have basic things like water and bathrooms and places for them to, whether it's they want to put up a tent or whatever, like you have to find a place, you have to find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
I don't know, but those asshole cops aren't the answer.
Well, and like I remember and going up to school, like taking the tracks up there. It was always like once you're past State Street, you were pretty okay. But now going down there now, it's like they're all the way up to like 8th East almost. Like they've gone up. And
right.
Everybody's like, oh, that's never gonna happen. Oh no, it's happened within the span of like 5 years. Like
they scatter the services. So then, they have to try and once they do get to that side of town, how do they get back and, or whatever. It's just, it would be better if those services were together in an area where they could be accepted or, I also think UTA should be free for locals, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, no, like, we're definitely on the same page.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so when did you get into acting? We'll kind of meander from there.
Yeah, so I started acting, like I remember my first time I got to do something was in kindergarten. Our teacher was having me and another student. We were going to be trees, and we were going to sing a song in our play, and the other kid was too scared to do it. So she was like, do you want to do a solo? And I was like, yes. And ever since then, like I've been acting, whether it's with school or I think I started doing acting professionally in 2014, I think. 2014 here in Salt Lake. And that's kind of where we're at now. Just it's a rough business. Can you hear that? That's my dog. Hold on. Let me let him in so he'll shut up. You're supposed to be with the children. Teddy, come on. Oh boy. Okay, sorry. They're relentless. No, but what were we talking about?
Acting. You were saying it's a rough business.
It is a rough business overall, but in Utah, it's like just another level of, learning like, okay, I'm not a Mormon in this industry that's in Utah, it's very heavy LDS, and there's jobs that you can't even apply for if you're not, and things like that. So, and then networking and things like that. There's a big network. And so it's just a lot of, figuring out where you fit in, I guess.
Yeah.
Which everyone has to do.
Yeah. But no, it's interesting you bring that up because like, I do think there is a huge split of like, I mean, if you're part of or the groups on Facebook or whatever, like there's a lot of projects looking for, uh, I want to say this nicely, family friendly films. We'll say that. Which is, I don't think it's a bad thing at all, but it limits who you work with and also limits what you expose yourself to as being like a creative, and I get people don't want to work on certain projects because of certain beliefs. Like it's totally respectable, but um, but those same people will shame others who have something that pushes the boundaries. Like I remember, I don't know if are you part of the main group on there?
On Facebook?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Because a couple months ago, somebody posted like this Kickstarter video of it was making fun of the LDS religion, but in like not in like a awful way, I would say, but it was more like because he grew up in that sense. It was like, his own experiences with it, but people were just bringing him down. I'm just like, seriously? And they're like, these kind of videos shouldn't be allowed here. And I'm like, he's a filmmaker. Like that's what this group is for.
Exactly.
Like,
well, judgment is what Utah is probably. It's like Utah's known for, Mormons, snow, and judging people. Like we are kings and queens at judging the shit out of each other. Like, I mean, my whole childhood, it's been like so much trauma from just being judged, and you see it on the Facebook groups. Like you can ask for directions to a store and they're going to tell you what a dumbass you are, or, I mean, my city Facebook page is freaking crazy. Like I've had my friends join it just so they can see, like, so that they can see it too. Cause I'm like, you have got to see this. This is nuts. But once, someone had wanted to do like a non-LDS moms group in the city, and she was torn. I mean, they tore her a new one. They were not pleased. They're like, how could you exclude us? You don't want to be friends with, with everybody. And it's like, there are groups that you guys have that you don't necessarily want, like I can't go to your temple, So like, I don't understand why we can't commiserate together about this stuff also. I don't know. It was just crazy to see how people went nuts. I actually wanted to get our splash pad opened on Sunday down here because it was a new splash pad and they weren't going to open it on Sunday. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like that's one of the top days to go. It's either Saturday or Sunday. Those are the big days. And so I started a petition and people were pissed. People were so mad at me. They were like, told me to move to California. They told me to get my sprinklers out. They told me to go to other splash pads in other cities. I mean, they were pissed. And it's like, how is this hurting you? I just wanted on, like, what is the deal? But they did open it on Sunday. Thank you very much. And I made sure to go back on that Facebook page and put a little fun little gif on everybody who talks shit to me.
Well, and it's funny. So
I'm pretty like that.
Well, like today I commented on like one news source, right? And it was about our attorney general, misrepresenting Utah at its best. And I made this just a comment, and people went ballistic. And I'm not one to even comment on news sources, but these people went like ballistic. And then it's funny you bring up California because they're like, look, another Californian trying to infiltrate Utah. I'm like, dude, I'm born and raised in Utah. What are you talking about?
Utahns hate California.
I don't know why.
It pisses me off because like I'm not from California, but like I feel like I'm part Californian because I should be, but I've never lived there a day in my life. So I feel personally offended when people say that. But I remember when I was a kid, there was someone had made a cardboard sign and put it on the street, and it said, Californians, welcome to Utah. Now go home. And it was like so Christ-like.
I'm like, why are we doing that? Like, I don't see California plates. I see Idaho plates and Wyoming plates, and they are the worst. They're worse than Utah drivers, and they drive 60 in a fast lane.
Pretty bad.
So
these are pretty bad.
Yes, we are.
We're one of the top, man. They're pretty bad.
I feel like highway patrolmen just like give up at a certain point. Like when everybody's speeding like 85 miles an hour, like.
And they're all pissed off too when they do it. Like everyone is viciously mad. It's like, I have to be first, or you cannot get in front of me. Oh my God. We're so crazy. It's not that we're dumb. It's that we're just asshole drivers. We're not dumb drivers. We're asshole drivers. It's not, we know that we should let you in, but we're not going to. Fuck you.
Well, and I feel like too, like it goes back to like this, the county lines, right? Because like Salt Lake is congested. I think that's just how it is for any major city. Past that, and if you go north, it's not bad. I mean, especially once you pass Davis County, like it's pretty open. But if you go south to like Lehigh, where they're number one, they're doing construction down there 24/7. People are going 90 miles an hour in the construction zone, and it's even more of a cluster fuck than Salt Lake is. And it's just like I feel like that's a great representation of like there are certain mentalities in certain areas.
For sure. It's totally, you could totally do like, that'd be a fun little skit of like each type of, like especially like in the area that you're talking about, that road too. It's like up and down, up and down.
It's like a roller coaster, yeah.
90, and it's like, woo! And they're like, woo! But in a van, you gotta get it when you can, I guess.
Yeah, or like they have like lines like randomly showing up, like curving. You're like, oh, this is a weird turn.
Yeah. Sorry. It's not my fault. I know. And in the nighttime, you're fucked. Or if it's like raining, you're dead. Yeah.
Yeah. Or snow too. I mean, like when the weather advisory is like, this is going to be the worst snowstorm, for whatever reason, it clicks in Utahns' minds. You're like, dude, let's fucking go for it. And then you see all these cars spinning out literally right in front of you on the freeway, falling into ditches. And yeah, I'm glad. That's kind of why I'm glad it hasn't snowed, even though it's not great for the climate. So I'm like, it should probably snow. But also, it's a great time to snow because hypothetically, we're also being quarantined.
Right.
I don't think anybody in Utah's are necessarily following that, hence our numbers. But hypothetically, this is like the perfect year for it to snow free.
Yeah, for else we need it. That'd be so nice. But I know, well, every time that first time we get like a big weather, or if it gets blown up on the news that it's going to be a big snowstorm, like even if it's just a drizzle, we freak out. Like people cancel appointments. They're like, oh, the lady said, they're like, it's not snowing. I know, but it's going to be bad. So we're canceling, we freak out.
It's interesting. And also on the side note with the snow, Parley's Canyon is probably the worst nightmare you could drive in the snow.
Yes, that's scary.
You have all these ski bums who love Park City, and they'll go during the worst snowstorms, and then that whole canyon gets backed up by a good 2 hours.
Oh yeah. Oh, and if there is an accident, it's over. There's no going up or down. Yeah. No, that Parley's Canyon is scary. I think. So I don't like driving it, but everyone is like speedsters and their BMWs and their Range Rovers, and you're like, okay, I'll just be in the slow lane.
Well, it's like super steep to go up. Yeah. And it's not even like just steep, like a short steep. I mean, like it's like steep all for like you get 20 minutes, and then going back down, you have to, I don't know. Diesels too. Like, I mean, that's a road for semis and stuff. Like, it's scary. I don't.
Yeah.
Like going up to Sundance during that was like scary.
Yeah. And they've had quite a few like motorcycle deaths on that road. Like every time I think of Parley's, I always remember that because it seems like every year there's another death on there with a motorcycle. So it's scary as hell. And I hate heights. So anytime I'm driving like that, I get nervous. Even if like I'm not looking, I'm just like white knuckled. I hate it. I hate it so bad. I hate heights.
Do you turn down your volume as well?
Sometimes I gotta concentrate. I'm telling the kids like, quiet, let them die, quiet.
Like trying to find an address and you're like, where is it at? Turn down the volume.
100%. 100% for sure. Although when you become a parent, you start to learn how to zone things out. So like I can zone out the kids. I'm really good at that. So like they're just gone. I can't hear them, but the radio I'll have to turn down. That's true.
So what was your first project that you kind of, okay, well, first off, do you do like theatrical acting or do you do film acting or both?
So I mainly just did theater growing up, and it wasn't until like 2014 that I switched over to film. So I'm trying to think. What was like my first? I did a lot of short films when I first got, because when you first get into like filmmaking and things here, you have to do whatever you can do. So you're looking for extra work, you're looking for jobs that, anything that can get you more credit or, good productions, anything like that. So I know I got onto Proper Manners pretty early. And that was a Utah production that was SAG. And so I wanted to get involved with that. And that was really cool because I got to do a bunch of things with them. Like I got to help with, like, I was doing crafty. I got to do like production design. Like they're really cool about letting people, because it was a long web series and they had lots of opportunities. So you really got to try out different things. So that was fun. I got to play Lilith, who is, she was like a detective, and it kind of reminds me of like Reno 911 as far as her character goes. So that was always fun. But we shot a lot, and it not only, I think only like one of my episodes that came out, and that was on Amazon Prime. But we shot so much. I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much left in the can that hasn't. That's the thing about this business, though, is that you can do, there's so many awesome projects that I've done that have never seen the light of day, and probably never will. Like I've done some awesome commercials for like local companies. And they just, for whatever reason, they changed their mind, or whatever it is, you don't even get to see it. So that's kind of a bummer. But yeah, I just tried to do anything and everything I could. It wasn't until maybe a couple of years into it that I started being more selective about like what I would do. Now I am much more selective because, you have to consider everything from, I got to make sure I've got a babysitter, to I've got to drive here, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. So I want to make sure it's worth it. And the thing about Utah is there's a lot of productions that they don't pay you what they should. They try and, like $50 for a day, and it's like, if I have to pay a babysitter for 12 hours, that doesn't even cover it, or even including that in drive time. So I would definitely, if anyone is interested in acting or things like that in Utah, like beware of that. Beware that that's big time in Utah. A lot of people in Utah will take advantage of you and try and get you to work for peanuts. And so if the more actors that stand up against that and refuse to do stuff like that, the better the business will be here for everybody. So, but it's hard because everybody a lot of people want to get involved, and sometimes, you're working with a big company. So you're like, well, maybe the exposure, maybe the work will be worth it, but I don't know. I don't think it is. Usually it's not.
No one, I mean, it's kind of the same with like pre-production stuff. Like people have come to me to write stuff for them, and the incentive is, oh, exposure. I'm like, hey, it's not number one. I don't think it's hard to write, and I think anybody can learn to write. And if you have such a great idea, you'll learn to write that. You know,
Right.
like I yeah, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
well, and like you said, like I think once too, like once you find your clique, because there are groups and factions that you kind of like will fall into that you get along with well, where you could help out and understand that like paid work is great. I think everybody should do paid work, but there are those like close friends that you
Oh,
do
for
where you're like,
sure.
oh, let's do, let's work on this and
For
see
sure.
if anything comes around. But like usually it's because they have stuff to show behind it where it's
Well,
not like
well, not only that, but like in nowadays, to be an actor, you can't just be an actor. Like you have to be an actor, a writer, a producer. You have to be a director or an editor. You have to do more. And a lot of time you have to make your own work. Like that's like you see, big name people who are writing their own movies and producing their own movies. They're creating their own jobs because nowadays that's the way it kind of is. You got to make your own work,
yeah.
So that's why you get together with your friends and you put something together. You got to make your own projects, just always be creating.
Yeah, when I miss 2020's fucked it up. I miss being on sets.
I know.
And I've had friends who were like, "Oh, we're gonna shoot this weekend." I'm like, "Yo, it's fucking the pandemic." Like, no question mark. And now I know I know that Utah's doing pretty decent with taking it serious with having a COVID specialist essentially like on sets, and people are getting tested frequently. But the lower tier filmmakers, the lower budget ones, they can't afford that.
Right.
And so if you're gonna go out and do that, then like I don't know, I miss it. I just want things to get back to normal.
I know. Well, and I've even seen like some of the bigger names here in Utah, like they start out doing great with their COVID, but then they're posting videos and like nobody has a mask on, or just other things like that. So it's like nobody's perfect, and it's always a risk,
Yeah.
and I went to an audition and I was told like, oh no, they're being very safe with the COVID thing. And then I get there and there's literally 20 of us in a tiny little room and we're all hanging out. And it's like, that's not what you said, but that it's a whole nother thing now with COVID. Like it's a whole nother aspect you have to deal with when deciding what jobs do you want to go for? Who do you want to work with? It's a whole nother layer to it. Shitty layer.
I think that's an understatement, honestly.
Yeah.
It's shitty. It sucks. I like here's the thing too. Like I miss like the thing that we would do usually is we'd usually go to like Lucky 13 down in Salt Lake and have a burger and a great beer and discuss an idea.
Yeah.
And talk for like 3 hours about this idea over a burger and a beer. And they have
Yeah.
like the best fries. And they have great fry sauce. But like just like not being able to, experience that just
Yeah.
sucks. And then like when it does happen, it's gonna be so great. But then I feel like everything's gonna change. Everybody's doing different stuff. And so it's like
I know.
I almost feel like you maybe have to find a new clique.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people have been doing that. Like, I've seen, like you see, like, Sarah Silverman, she talked about how it sucks because you can't go to open mic, or you can't, like she's going to open mics, but you can't go out there and have like a live audience to mess with. And so she started doing like a podcast or things like that. Like you see people who are coming up with new ways to because we still have to be creative, we still have to express that and do that, but it's a new world, it's a new science. I still haven't caught up.
Well, and I know, like, for example, Patrick, the Gaggle of Geeks was supposed to be a different thing. We were like, he has like a whole thing set up in his garage, and like it was like, like in person stuff.
Yeah.
That's what the idea was always going to be. And then literally right as it was about to kickstart, COVID hit. And so then we had to resort to different outlets. And
Yeah, but it works. I like it, you know.
yeah, it works. But now it's just even like with my podcast, like originally it was in person. Like they'd come over to my apartment, would sit in my office, and just like in person, whatever. You know, I didn't have to worry about video editing or anything like that. Then since COVID hit, I got Zoom, and I'm like, well, I guess I could start video recording. But then it brings up the question of like, after this pandemic ends, will this video platform still be a thing? You know, like will the other podcast with Patrick, will that, not be what it is now? Will it be more in person? So I don't know. Changes.
I know. I hope some things stay with the Zoom. Like, as far as, a lot of people now we know can work from home, that, that didn't need to travel into work every single day, and they can easily work at home. Like, we need to definitely explore that more, because I just think it's better for the environment. It's better for everybody. I just think things like that we need to explore more. We've learned a lot from that. And I kind of dig it. I kind of dig the Zoom calls, how people, and the things like that. It's kind of been fun, like seeing, where different people are Zooming from, or, whatever it is. It's kind of been fun, but there definitely is an aspect we miss when, you're in the same room. It's definitely misses something. I don't know. No. I can't wait for it to be over.
I know. And like, I'm a hugger, and not like, it's funny because like I stopped giving hugs, I think in late April, when, things started becoming more clear. But I went to like winging it, like elbows.
Right. Yep.
And now I'm just like, that's my go-to. And I'm like, oh, what does a hug feel like?
I know. I've been making all these future dates. Like, oh, I can't wait. We're going to get my friends together. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And I can't wait. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go and, get my hair cut. And I can't wait. My poor kids, I haven't taken them to get their hair cut, and they're looking pretty scraggly. I need to do something, because it's not looking good.
Just give them a buzz cut.
We've done that before, but they want like weird things. Like, my one son wants like his hair to go like, like, he's like, he wants it over here and like short over here. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I will not make you look attractive at all. I can barely do the buzzers. Like, that's what we were doing that earlier, where we were just like doing their sides and then trying to trim it up. And it was still horrible. So I need a professional.
Yeah, I haven't got mine cut since last summer. I was about to get it cut right before COVID. Gosh. And then it did not. So now it's, people are like, you're growing your hair back out. I'm like, I don't think I really have a choice at this point. Yeah. But then I've been watching a gross amount of Impractical Jokers. A gross amount. I will just say that I've watched up to season 6 in the span of like 3 weeks, maybe. So, but they have an episode where this guy's getting his buzz cut, and I was like, could I do that by myself? Like, just
you could
do it. I'm like, nobody's gonna see me in the next couple months anyway. Like, then I was like,
if there was ever a time.
Yeah. Well, and then I'm like, I don't know. It's just like, like, oh, I could have fun with facial hair designs and just say, screw it. Nobody's going to see me.
Seriously.
Especially if you're wearing a mask in a store, nobody's going to know how botched up you actually did. Sure.
Well, and everyone's really, I think we're all a little more forgiving too, given like, you can, like, before you could only wear pajamas to Walmart, but now you can wear pajamas anywhere.
Yeah.
It's totally acceptable. You can wear slippers anywhere. Nobody cares. Like, this is like the universal hairdo for 2020. Like, we all did this. And makeup, like, I've probably worn makeup like I could count it on like one hand this year. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's definitely taught me a lot. Like, I really don't give a shit as much anymore. Like, I just don't. I'm like, yep, I'm not wearing mascara. And if you have a problem with it, sucks to be you.
Yeah. One, I kind of like what you said too, is like working from home. I think I don't know. It's like we were living like an American dream that was a lie because they're like, you can't work from home. You're not going to be productive. And then like, yo, look.
Yeah, and there's got to be other benefits that come from that, like health benefits and mental health benefits from being home and not having to go to the office every single day, you know. Like even if they did something like where you come into the office once a week or twice a week and then the rest is at home, like I just think we other countries they don't have work like that, you know. It's not as crazy. Like where is it that they have like they shut down in the middle of the day to have like a 2-hour big meal. Everyone, like the stores closed so that everybody can have a nice meal together in the middle of the day, you know?
I think that's France.
Is it France or Italy? One of them. One of those countries.
I think it's France. I think it was either Cody who's talking about it or Michael.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think it might have been Cody. Yeah, because he was talking about this, the work ethic of how they would celebrate essentially during lunch and have a huge feast and then go back to work and then I don't know.
Yeah, and then like dinner wasn't such a big deal like it is here, you know. I don't know. I think we should take some, you know, advice from some of those people or you know.
I mean, you would think, right? I mean, because like America is relatively still young.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of lessons to learn, to say the least, and hopefully
and to relearn.
We've had a wake up call, a rude awakening, to say the least. So yeah, I mean, you know, it sucks though because like when we burn bridges with allies, essentially that have been doing this for years, decades, centuries, longer than you know we were even conceived. It's just like it makes us look like a pouty 3-year-old.
Yeah. Well, and America already has kind of that reputation, right? Like, isn't that kind of how we got started? Was, you know, pouty 3-year-old saying, forget this. I don't like it. I'm going to start my own, you know? So America, I mean, I've definitely learned that America is not, we've definitely had some dark history and we've had some really rough areas in our history, and the sooner that we accept that, acknowledge it, and you know, the sooner we can all move on or do what we need to do to make things better, you know.
Yeah, well, and even like this year alone with all the riots going on in the middle of the pandemic, like how much more American is? I mean, that's such an American thing to do. It's just like, oh yeah, no, that's America. That's America for you, you know. But I think it's cool, but I also think like that's not smart.
Right. Well, and you think about like, I will tell you this that there is a difference. Like if you were to go to like a protest, like a Stop the Steal rally versus a Black Lives Matter rally. The difference is everybody at the Black Lives Matter rally is going to have a mask on. Yep. Every single one of them has a mask on. And you go to some of these other ones where they're protesting masks or like kids being in school, like, or I mean, they're showing up to the frickin' doctor's house and other people's houses, and you know, like, I don't know. You don't see the like Black Lives Matter Utah. They're not going to people's houses and trying to intimidate them, you know. Yeah. So I don't know. That's the difference I see there. But you're right. Like, could you imagine if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, how like those protests would really be, like how big they would be? Because a lot of people have got to be staying home.
Yeah, well, and like the one that hit Salt Lake back in June. Mm-hmm. Number one, Salt Lake's not known for protests, so the fact that happened and the fact that it escalated the way it did, like I was like, damn, that was kind of not, that wasn't on my bucket list for 2020. We'll just say that.
No, I definitely did not expect that to come from Utah. But all I can think about is the girl that took a crap on the police car Like every time we talk about that riot, that's all I can picture. And so like, I'm sorry that I'm laughing, but like every time I see that, I'm just like, oh my God. Every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, that girl took a shit on the fucking cop car.
Well, and
Like that was Utah.
yeah. Well, the thing with that too is that not everybody there was to vandalize. Number one,
Right, for sure.
and if like we were talking, like if we weren't in a pandemic, I considered like I'm like, yo, is this something I want to go for? Like, yeah, but the virus is a thing. And that's
Right.
why I did not. I was watch Facebook Live videos, and
Right.
I had like my TV and computer, just like news channel. Like there was a lot
Right.
in my house. It was like the
I
Matrix
think a
almost.
lot of us were like that, where we were supporting from home. We wanted to be there, but with the virus and stuff. Although that first day, that was really bad, and I don't think. I think that was I don't know what that was. I think that was like just a lot of anger and people piggybacking on each other's feelings, and next thing you know, it gets crazy. But since then, I've been to a couple protests, and that's literally the only thing that I've gone out and done is done the protests, because I just, even with the pandemic, sometimes I'm just like, I have to go out there. I have to stand with everybody, but recently I've been home. I'm not going anywhere and stuff like that. But, I've definitely learned a lot this summer from going out to those protests and things. I've seen how there was one protest we went to where on one side there was all these Trumpers. They had camo on. They had their army fatigues. They had uniforms on. They had and then everyone had like weapons and guns and vest, and I mean all sorts of stuff, and they're on this side, and then you've got the people who are protesting police brutality on this side, and they don't have any guns, and all the cops are staring at the protesters with their backs to this armed vigilante group. And it's every protest. It's not one or two. Every protest, they're facing the protesters and their backs are to the guys with the guns. And I've had friends that have been attacked by these people. They come out to protest, and like they'll do a memorial or a vigil, and these guys come out to protest. Like would you go, like Black Lives Matter would never go to like a vigil of a fallen officer and try and shoot their agenda. They respect what that is and would never do that. But these guys come and say horrible things. We've had memorials where family members and the mothers of slain children are there, and these guys are there saying things like, well, he deserved it, or just dumbass shit. And it's so gross, and it's like the worst humanness you can see. It's just awful. I didn't realize how freaking disgusting it is.
Did you go to the LGBTQ one that was like a drive protest?
Yeah, I helped organize that one.
You did. So I did that one with my parents, and
I saw that you were there, but it wasn't until after.
It was on Facebook. Yeah,
I didn't recognize anybody with a damn mask on.
Yeah, well, and so
like, oh, shit.
Well, I mean, just like you bringing up, like, after everybody met in the parking lot, there was these assholes with a huge flag of a certain incompetent person and screaming vulgarities at everybody. Like, what were we doing wrong? Like, nothing.
Exactly.
Like, we were in the middle of a speech, and these guys, not even like a slow drive by me, like they it was like a lifted truck with diesel fumes, and like these guys, these kids, like they weren't even guys. I mean, they were like 19 years old, maybe. They were just like yelling out these slurs and honking and flipping all this stuff. It was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And
like, why?
Yeah, there's no reason. That whole parade was all about like just love and kindness. There was nothing that was about like hating on Trump or hating on this person. It was just a love fest. There was no reason for anyone. And they do it all the time. They come all there. They literally, there's a group of people that literally spend all their time focusing on other groups like Black Lives Matter or whatever it is. and they go to their events to harass them. They go there to try and incite violence. They try and they'll say the most vile, horrible things because they're trying to get you to hit them. They want you to hit them because then they can be like, oh, we're victims. Look at how awful they are. Look at how they yell at us and run at us. Oh, and every time, every protest I've been to, every time they're there, I've been called, oh my God. There was this guy that we were at this protest, and there was this guy that was drunk off his ass, and he was such an idiot. He kept running around saying things like, all lives matter, and, oh, don't hurt me, when people were trying to get it, because he was trying to get into the area where the microphone was and start trouble. And so people were like blocking him with their signs so that he couldn't, and he was just yelling and spewing and hate and blah, blah, blah. He was all over the place. He was running. And there was this 90-year-old man, with a cane. And I'm like, oh, sir, be careful. Cause he's, I just told him to be careful because this guy's like backing up and not giving a shit about a 90-year-old man he's about to knock over. And the guy goes, fuck you. You can't tell me what to do. This is not. And oh my God, I about died. I'm like, okay, fuck you, like, oh my God. It was like he was waiting. He wanted someone to say something to him so he could say, fuck you. He was so mad. There was a bunch of, Black Lives Matter people in his area. He was pissed, and he was just waiting. Oh, be careful, sir. Fuck you.
Just take out his cane after that. Be like, fuck me, no, fuck you.
Like, holy shit, they come in all ages, all ages. Motherfucker, yeah, it's bad. I've seen some pretty crappy stuff just in the last few months being out there, and I've really only done a few. I really try not to do a lot because of COVID. I wish I could do more, and be out there all the time. But it's gross. I'm shocked by what I went to one where they did this demonstration where they wanted everyone to lay on the ground and just kind of get a feel of what that felt like. And we had all these guys with the guns and everything. Of course, they weren't wearing masks or anything like that. And this big, ugly motherfucker, like straight out of, from under a rock, comes out, and he's just circling around me as I'm on the ground and we're doing this thing. And he's spitting on the ground all the way around me. And it's like this is out there. And this is something I experienced for a short time when I'm at these protests. Think about what people of color are experiencing every day of their life, every day. I experience this for an hour and I get to go home, and that's why we're out there, because it's so fucked up. You think it's not in Utah, it's in Utah, and it is hardcore in Utah.
Oh, Utah has a lot of closeted racists.
Big time.
And I think they've come out in the woodwork more often. Here's the thing, though. All these people coming out, I'm just like, don't forget their names or faces, because they're going to try to go back and hide and pretend nothing ever happened. Right. And it's like, you guys are, number one, you're fucking stupid enough not to wear a mask to hide your identity. Like especially like, at the Salt Lake one, right? Like everybody who got caught probably weren't wearing masks. So it just made it that much easier to catch them. Like the point, if you're going to riot, you could have at least done like 2020 give you an excuse to wear a mask without anybody questioning you. Know what I mean?
Yeah. I think people are doing that more now. They're starting to get the hang of that. Like, oh, we need to do that.
Yeah. Well, and then it's interesting too. So like, Watchmen. Have you seen the show Watchmen, the HBO one?
I think so. Yes, I think so.
Yeah, the police officers there in the show, they all wear masks, like protect their identities, and I'm like, it reflects so much of like what the protesters are doing to like protect their identities, because who fucking knows who's doing what there, like
you need to though, because they will try and put some fucked up charges on you, like I know I have a friend who's being charged. They did listen to this. They had a memorial to recognize the victims of people who've been murdered by police officers. And what they did is they put their hand in paint and then made a handprint on a piece of paper, right? And they made this banner with this handprint. They're charged my friend with graffiti because they say they got paint on the sidewalk from doing that. Then they charged him with criminal mischief for putting the paper on the wall on the outside. I mean, it's like, do you not have shit to do? Is there not shit going on that you could be doing that you're going to charge someone with graffiti for dropping a drop of paint on the fucking ground? Like, you don't have more shit to do? I mean, how many rape is crazy in Utah? Fucking the church has shit going on that you could work on, you know, maybe, you know, drugs are fucking crazy in Utah. Like, there's shit you could do as police officers that you don't need to charge someone for a drop of paint on the fucking sidewalk. Like, what the fuck are you doing? But then you have like these other guys that go to, you know, people's homes and harass them and they'll go and follow activists and try and intimidate them. I know a few activists that get harassed, like people literally follow them home, you know, trying to scare them, trying to scare their kids. I know Lex Scott of Black Lives Matter, she gets death threats like on the regular basis, and, you know, and says shitty ass things about her family, like, you know, but they're not getting arrested. You know, you don't see the people on that side paying for it. You know what I mean? But we've got people who face life charges for paint on the fucking ground. Like literally for paint on the ground. We have protesters that were facing life charges. I mean, what, don't we have shit to do? I don't know. Priorities. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I mean, you know, we do have an attorney general that just went to Texas and wastes taxpayer money, even though Utah is not contesting their votes. So
it's so stupid.
Are you surprised by this? I think that's the real question. Are you surprised that Utah's this ass backwards?
No, I was surprised that Gary Herbert said that he didn't discuss it with him and he doesn't support it. I was surprised that he said that. Yeah. Because I expect, you know, but at this point, like, I'm ready for Mike Lee to walk in with a dinosaur, you know, and a fucking broom up his ass at this point. Like, that guy is fucking nuts.
Yes, he is. And now we also have a QAnon guy in our office who
that was the worst loss. Yeah. I can't believe we lost Ben McAdams. Like, we had like a normal human and now we have a fucking monster in there. Like,
yep. But Utah, you don't see those who voted for McAdams throwing like a huge fit, you know,
right?
Being you know, this is fraud, you know. No, like, Utah voted this insane fucker in, and we're gonna pay the consequences. Like, we get it, you know. Right,
we'll deal with the consequences. Exactly, we'll have to deal with it. Oh my god! Hopefully, he'll just get arrested for all his bullshit he does, but we can only hope.
Okay, so to get this back onto track, having all these experiences, has any of it influenced new jokes for you for your stand-up comedy? Like, is there humor that you could find within it?
Oh, for sure. It's like endless material. But like, I've noticed, like, I've started to get a bunch of jokes on like just social media, because I feel like we're all living on social media now. And so like lots of judgment and criticism and jokes about social media I found. You know, and I always like parent humor, mom humor. And so that's pretty hardcore right now. Although sometimes I get pretty frustrated, so it's hard to laugh at it. But no, I think we have some good stuff there too, but definitely inspiration for sure. You know, and I think a lot of comedians, you know, they're hard times or, you know, rough things they've had to go through definitely influences their comedy, but also I think it makes them better at their comedy because you're able to see that side, and it makes, finding the joke easier, I think a lot of comedians have that in common.
Yeah, when I think a lot of people think comedians are just there to tell the jokes, right? But if you listen to like what they're saying, they're smart, number one. And the way they're able to navigate and still get to their point, even if it's not like right on the nose, but like the context and like, everything underneath the surface comes to fruition with their punchline or, whatever. They are very intelligent people. And I don't think people give them enough credit for that, even though they often show what's wrong with our system and our society and all that stuff. So do
That's
you?
one. Oh, sorry. Go. What's that?
Well, no. What were you gonna say?
That's one thing that I definitely love with or that I like to concentrate with my jokes is like social consciousness. That's something I think with all my work, with all my writing, I feel like I want to do something like that. Judd Apatow says, Apatow?
I love Judd Apatow.
I love him too. He's gonna direct my first movie. I'm sure of it.
Well, have you seen his masterclass?
Yeah. Uh-huh. And he says that like with like a joke, when you bring on the joke, it gives you that space to put in that little piece of truth or that nugget or that wisdom.
Yeah.
It gets you to a place where people can accept it. And so I love that. I feel like that's something I like to concentrate on with my work.
Do you have like favorite comedians that that kind of influenced you?
For me, there's definitely comedians that I like that, you can sit and watch all day. Like I love, of course, Amy Schumer, who brings, any awkwardness or realness, like not being able to fit in, that kind of thing. I love that. But when you have to find your own style of how to
Yeah.
do it, because, it any other person's setup doesn't necessarily work for you. So you have to learn what your setup is, and that all has to be learned on trial and error. You have to get out there and stand in front of an audience and see what happens. So I definitely I would say I get influenced, like maybe with the genres and things and trying to find where I fit in. But as far as like my own kind of flow, like I said, it's individualistic. You have to figure it out what it is. I don't know what that is. I'm still trying to figure that out.
So, and I know a lot of comedians are also act, and a lot of them are actually great actors too. Very much more character driven, almost.
Yeah.
I would argue. I mean, like look at Judd Apatow's latest King of Staten Island. You have Pete Davidson, and you also have Bill Burr, who's my favorite comedian. But seeing that side of them that's so like vulnerable, it's talent. Like there's so much to it. And so with that in mind, like, do you often find yourself crossing the boundaries of comedy and acting, like to like mold and blend? That makes sense.
Oh, for sure. They definitely go hand in hand together. And for me, comedy's always been my natural like go-to. It's just I naturally end up there always. Like I've done dramatic work and I like doing dramatic work. But even in dramatic work, like I still find where the humor is, and I still like to have that like real person aspect of it, even if it's not flattering or even if it's not perfect. And so but for sure I feel like it goes hand in hand. It's one together. I feel like you're definitely acting when you're on stage, doing comedy, and it's different. It's just a different type of acting.
Yeah, well, it's funny. So I mean, I know some people might make the argument that like, oh, all comedians believe in everything they say. But I'm like, some of them might just say shit just to like get a reaction. And they like Anthony Jeselnik, he's another one that I really enjoy, but he's like really dark humored and like really dark humored. And I know for a fact he doesn't believe half the shit he says. You know, like he's even said on podcasts, he's like, look, I make jokes about like women, but like my best friends are my sister, my mom. Like, and Whitney Cummings was even talking about how nice he was and like gentlemanly he is, like off stage. I'm just like, yeah, it's all persona, like you said, it's all an act.
Right. Well, you have to find, what works for you and where your
Yeah,
genre is and where is it? And once you do that, you just explore that area and go from there. And when you find what works, you go for it. So if that's what works, that's what works.
yeah.
I know. And it definitely is, like I said, trial and error, trying to figure out what you like or what it's funny or how you like to, bring it all together. It's all, and I'm missing it. I'm missing it so much. But it's good we're doing things like this because it's like I get to do something creative.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know some will try to do like not just comedy, but like live concerts via Facebook, like through Zoom or through whatever platform they're using. Like, was it Broadcastify or something? I don't know. Whatever Patrick uses. Like, I mean, that's one that a lot of streamers use. I don't know what it's called. But anyway, so it's interesting to see how we've all adapted essentially. And I think humans are very great at adapting.
Oh, for sure.
And
even though we fight it.
oh yeah, no, we fight it. And the thing with this though is like I think it's in our nature to hate change. Because it causes so much friction, right? Because I mean, in a general sense, it's because it's something new, and a lot of people don't like new because it's scary. I mean, the
Right.
unknown scares people, and I think this pandemic certainly has shown that, to say the least. But with change, like I think the issues with like even just like politics aside, is you have this group who wants to hold on to old ideologies, of like what America was founded on or whatever, and they don't want to change. And it's because of that opposing viewpoint that it's restricting us from changing when like the momentum is in the favor of change. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's just like we're just constantly adapting and shifting, shaping our daily lives 24/7. And it's cool. I think humans deserve more credit in that sense.
For sure.
We're not the smartest at points, but we do damn well at surviving somehow. So
Yeah. Well, and I've been really impressed with just like the youth of today. Like I'm so impressed with them. They're so much more aware of things than when I was a kid. Like I had no idea about so many things compared to like these kids are out there, fighting for justice or talking about things that, I had no clue about at their age. So I think we definitely need to give more credit to the youth of today because they're a lot better than people give them credit for, I think.
Yeah, well, especially because for a long time, from my understanding, is that people thought millennials would be the change, right? And I mean, it might be like I think we definitely kickstarted and like ignited the flame, but seeing how woke, if you will, the younger generation is and how involved they are, like that's our future.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're watching our steps, and even the younger generations that aren't protesting, that are like in elementary school, they're watching what they're doing. Like it's a wave building up behind a dam. And like, once it's out there, like it's going to flow out there. Like it's exciting. I'm excited to see what comes of it. So
yes, I really hope we see some change. I really hope that, things move forward and, gosh, it's crazy because when you think about history, you realize like a lot of things, like big changes didn't happen that long ago. It wasn't that long ago that we had the civil rights movement and things like that. And, a lot, it wasn't that long ago that, gay marriage was illegal, And so big changes can happen. They can happen quickly. They can, we can change the world. We can change mindsets. We can do that, like you have to keep going. We have to keep it in the, keep talking about it and keep doing the work,
Yeah, when I think a lot of those who aren't fond of change, I think it's the lack of understanding the situations as a whole, and it's a lot to do with not wanting to learn.
Yeah.
And I think now, especially with how outspoken the younger generation is, and just how vocal they are, and how vocal millennials are in that sense too. Like they're gonna, I don't know. I just think that they're gonna be better at communicating these ideas in a way that's not so extreme that these viewpoints have made them seem like they were in the past. Because in the past it's all about fear mongering too. All these ideas about I don't know. It's fucking wild. I'm excited. That's the good
I'm
note
excited
on this. The conversation is there's a lot of excitement to be had. It's just a matter of surviving it. But like I said, we are adapting, and just like creatures hiding in the shadows, adapting. And what I think is really cool too. I mean, I don't know how political I want to get with this, but like with the election, I was nervous, right? Like I was nervous for the election.
For sure.
And especially the night of, I was just like, I don't know how to feel about this. Like I think I'm going to drink myself like I did in the 2016 election. But the fact that there was such a huge surge after the fact, like after that, and I'm like, it's all silent voices, essentially, all in the background. Like people are moving forward. It's just and that gave me so much hope, and like kind of like ease my anxiety of like, oh my God, like this is progress. Not the best progress, but still progress.
Yeah. We're not a blue state or anything, but not even close. But
no.
I had I have like a Black Lives Matter sign, and I have a rainbow flag, and I had a Biden flag out there during the election. And I had more than one person drop a note off at my house or say something to me saying, thank you for daring to put, like, especially in my city, like, you're not going to see that. Like, you're not going to see that very often. And so I had more than one person say, thank you. Like, I appreciate seeing that or whatever. And that really, like, I was shocked because when you put it out there, you're like, oh God, everyone hates us. There's another reason to hate us. And so you're just like, hey, when do we get egged, or when do we get toilet paper? And so when I had people saying like, thanks for doing that, and then seeing other people put up signs, it was really, really hopeful and really inspiring, especially, I know there's a lot of people in the LDS faith that voted for Biden, are speaking out against, the wrongs that Trump's doing. And I think that takes a lot of courage, and I respect them a lot for doing that, because there's a lot of people in that faith that don't feel that way. And it's hard to speak out when you've got a whole group of people telling you what you should do to be a good person or what not to do, Yeah. So I give a lot of credit to them for speaking out. And I've met some really awesome people because of it, because I've dared to speak out or dared to put a sign up, but I've also had people tell me like they can't post, and, it could affect their job. It could affect, or maybe they don't feel comfortable because of their family. So I've had a bunch of people say that as well. So I'm just going to keep speaking my mind and, representing as much as I can. And so the people that can't speak for whatever reason, I totally honored that I can, speak up for them, so I love them all. I love so much. I've met so many wonderful people, even though this has been the shittiest year, and I've lost friends in my life because they came out. This year, you got to see who people really were.
Yep.
And I had to confront people that were saying things, this is the year, like, no more. If you hear people make, whether it's some type of, something offensive racially or misogynistic or homophobic, you've got to speak out, even if it's Uncle Bob or even if it's Aunt, whoever, Aunt Karen. You got to tell her, like, Karen, no, Karen, that's not cool. And it sucks. It's not easy to tell your aunt or uncle, like, that's some fucked up shit you just said, but we've got to do it. So, and because of that, yes, I've lost some friends, but I have gained some of the coolest friends this year, like met some of the most wonderful people with the biggest hearts that are out there doing good things. So it's been a shitty year, but it's also been an awesome year in that sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think it just comes down to forcing people to take accountability for their own actions. For the longest time, it was just like a slap on the wrist, but now it's like, yo, that ain't fucking right,
Yeah, exactly. We just kind of look the other way when people would say something, we've all
be
heard
people.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all heard people say things or do things, and it's it's not easy to stand up. It's not easy to say things because it makes people uncomfortable. But the more we do it, the more mindsets are going to be changed. The more this country can progress.
Yeah. Well, and I also hearing all these people out or speak essentially for like what's right and stuff. It's kind of got me thinking about my own behaviors in the past, and like recognizing where have I been toxic? Where could I have improved? Like, is this what I really believe? And I think that's another thing. I don't. The 2020s offered us this nice lonely year, to say the least, to reflect.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people are utilizing that time to even reflect on like who they are, because so long we've been caught up in this sea of, just work, and
Right.
pretty much like almost losing a sense of your own identity, and so being forced to question these big topics that are, on the moral compass, I would argue, like it's a wake up call, really. And and there's nothing wrong with admitting when you're wrong, like saying, oh yeah, sure, I was wrong for that a couple of years ago. Like, here's how I'm going to fix it and change the course, like, I don't know. It's cool. You're cool. I love the fact that you're outspoken and, that you vouch for like what you actually believe in. And I think that's inspiring. So.
Oh, thank you. We all were born with bias. Everybody, every person was born some like racist in a sense. We're all born with this, and we learn things, and we have to kind of relearn things. And I've definitely learned things. I'm still learning things and trying to understand, as much as I can. And as long as we can admit that, we're not perfect, but we're willing to learn, then we can go anywhere. Like, we can go there, we can talk about things, we can learn about things, and we can bond and move forward, So hopefully that's planned. Hopefully.
I was joking to myself, like having shower thoughts, having conversations with myself to the wall, as you do in the shower. I was like, oh yeah, dude, like, what if 2021's worse? Dude, it's not gonna be bad. Then like I sat there and I was like, fuck, it better not be bad. Like, how could it get worse than this?
So much expectations. No, I have a feeling it's not gonna be worse. I definitely think that it's gonna be better than this year. But I think this year like you were saying, it had to happen because we all needed to slow down, to stop. I mean, and it wasn't just one thing that we were being pointed out that's, we need to fix. It was like 10 things or 100 things that are, look at all this fucked up shit, you guys, you got to fix this,
I mean, it's the fact that it's across the globe. Like, it's not just like our nation. I mean, our nation took a blunt end of it because of lack of certain leadership, but the fact that this has affected other countries across the world.
Right.
Like, this is like a huge wake up call, and especially in this year too. I mean, if you're going to talk about climate change, like, holy fucking shit for this year, like, wake up call,
Yeah, for reals. It's inspiring. But it's also a little frightening. But like seeing, there was those beautiful moments of like seeing everybody on the balcony in Italy, having, like, that was so amazing. Or in New York when people were cheering for the, healthcare workers, like
I saw a
I know.
video from New York. This guy was cooking and like just singing out of his window or whatever, and his downstairs neighbor was like, "What are you making?" Through the window, and he's like, "What?" She's like, "What are you making?" He's like, "Oh, whatever." And then he's like, "Do you want a drink?" And she holds out her glass and just like pours the
Oh,
alcohol. And I'm just like, dude, that's like a love story right there. Like,
yeah. It was the most adorable COVID love story on Instagram. There's like this photographer. He's a really amazing photographer. And there was like, he was shooting like the rooftops and stuff from where he was. And there was a girl there and they started like a COVID relationship. Like he went to meet her and he was in like a bubble
that's
at
right.
one
Yeah.
point. It was so cute.
And
But
he would use the drone to like send her messages across the
yes,
building.
it
Yeah.
was so cute. And they would have dates and she'd be over there and he'd be over in his building. It was so cute.
It is cute. See, and there's like those sweet moments like that. And like you said, like Italy singing and like, I don't know, it just shows that like when we need to, like we all unite.
Yeah, like we have the potential. Like it's like we're at such a volatile time right now. It can go one way or the other. And if as long as, we can, Biden's in the office, we can make this big change. I really think we can all start to move forward into the next phase, into the next, if for some reason, Trump were to stay, I think that would push us back a few years to get to there where we need to go.
Like,
but that's not going to happen. So I apologize for even speaking that into the air because that's so gross.
All I'm going to say is like, if that were to happen, you thought the riots were bad during the summer. That's how you break down a country in the split of a couple hours. Yep. Like, that's not. Oh my God. I can't even imagine.
Like I brought a gun into my home for the first time because of this horse shit. Like I was like, well, if I'm gonna have a Biden flag, I'm gonna need a gun also because this shit is crazy right now. But no, it's gonna get better. We're gonna be able to heal, and nobody's letting Joe Biden, like, we didn't just hand him this shit and then we're like, hey, you got this, do what you want. We're going to be riding his ass like nobody's business. He better be making real freaking changes. He better be on point. He's already been doing awesome with like his cabinet picks. So yeah, like doing like real doctors and real teachers and, things like that. It's so exciting.
You mean it's people who aren't like business related, like
right, like the oil guy in charge of fucking our environment,
who's the pillow guy?
Is such an asshole. Mike something, I think. I hate him. I hate my pillows. I'll never fuck pillows. Fuck those pillows. For the information, I have one of those pillows and they suck. So. You're going to have a neck ache and your head is going to hurt and they're fucking stupid. So just in case anyone wanted to know.
And that's Julie's review of the pillow.
That's right. Fucking stupid.
Well, so if things go accordingly in 2021, how do you plan on keeping up with your pursuits of the passions?
I really just want to keep writing and hopefully produce some things, get some things on film. I really want to be out there doing open mics every single week and working on jokes. I've been working on this feature script for a while now that I really want to like really dig in. It's a really awesome story, something that I think it's a sweet story and it's funny and I like, why don't we need that? Right. We all need that. So I hope to work on that some more too. So that would be like my goals, I don't know. As long as I'm in Utah, it's, you gotta make your own work. Like I said, so as much as I can produce.
You really do. And, yeah, it's just, It's interesting watching people. Although I love about Utah too is watching people grow, and like there is a lot of support as a whole, which I think is really cool to watch and see people
It's a
kind
good
of
community.
piggyback. It's cool. Yeah, Utah's a very unique film community. I feel like
Yeah,
very very unique, very strong,
yeah.
but
It
very
is
different than like California.
right. I don't know. All the time I'm like, do I want to move to California? Do I want to move to Georgia? They're looking so if I could afford it, I'd move to California right now.
You know
Because like I
what?
said, I'm part Californian.
Yeah, well, I've had a couple friends move up to California already. I had one friend that actually moved to Georgia randomly, and they've already found work too. Like it's just like right off the back, they're already working on a feature. I'm just like, God damn.
Yeah.
I kind of want that, you know?
Yeah, well, it's different. It's like I can't remember who was saying it, but like the business here, or the business in those areas, you're applying for 100 jobs instead of 10 jobs. It's just the numbers are a lot bigger. So and when you only have the 10 jobs here and you have everybody going for the same ones, and you do see a lot of like the same people doing the same kind of characters over and over. So
Yeah.
it's a weird industry here in Utah. I'm not saying that it's awesome, but I'm not saying it sucks. It's just it's meh.
It's very Utah.
Well, it pisses me off because we get good productions here and then we lose them because our tax incentives are bullshit. They don't, they put a cap on it, and so we lose these big productions. Yellowstone was giving so many people jobs here, and now it's gone because they can't get the money. Like Utah needs to get their shit together if they want to be serious about it.
I think it just comes down to like, vote the right people in who will actually
Yeah,
voice for you and not stop making about the party and just start voting about the individual
right.
themselves. Like that's what it's coming
Yeah,
down to anyway. But
yeah. I've never understood the party thing ever. When I remember learning about it in school and being like, that's dumb. Dumb. We don't need that clearly.
So what are some of your fears then of going forward with like, when things kind of open up?
Like saying something horribly stupid on stage and it being recorded and going viral as some freaking moron. Like that would be awful to go viral for something that is not good. Because that ruins people's careers. So what's that?
Well, I was gonna say, ask like, have you dealt with like hecklers yet?
Yeah, I've had some hecklers like, Jimmy Bob up there yelling and stuff. And, I like, sometimes I like to do sexual jokes, and sometimes those guys can't handle that. They just get a little excited. They gotta scream out. So it's usually the dudes.
Yeah, well, I mean, the dudes in Utah are kind of, I don't know. Utah is very interesting. We'll just say that again.
Yeah, I mean, we do it. We have we have kind of a melting pot. It's mostly a white melting pot. It's
Yeah.
sad, but we have there are different types of people. They're not all the same. They just look all the same.
Yeah, but I feel like if we were like if everybody was put like on a cruise ship and you had to guess where somebody was from, all you would have to do is just like make these jokes, and judging from the reaction, I could definitely bet you could guess they're from Utah because they have it's like the fry sauce thing, right? I mean, people outside of Utah think fry sauce is the weirdest thing. We're like, yeah, it's normal. But then like we look at people's behaviors here, we're like, oh, it's normal. But outside of Utah, it's not. And you kind of get that with like your jokes because the reactions to it, you're like, yeah, that's not a normal reaction, dude. Like it's a very Utah.
No, well, and that's why it would be nice to start, going to different audiences so that people that like the things I'm saying. No, you just have to learn like what what's going to reach them and what's, and what they're interested in. And then you go from there.
How do you hope you can inspire others with like your acting, your writing, or your stand up?
Well, I really want to focus on social consciousness in all my work. So I hope that my work inspires people to be better or to look at something differently or, things like that.
Yeah.
But I also hope that I inspire people to, follow their dreams, because like for me, I put it on the back burner for a long time for bullshit reasons. And then once I finally realized, like, I can do this, why can't I do it? And who the fuck is going to tell me I can't? Like, I'm the only one that knows what fire I have in my belly. So I'm the only one that can tell me what I can and can't do. And so I hope other people learn, like, you can too. There's no reason you can't. You just have to put in the work. You just have to put in the work. So I guess that's what I'd say.
And saying that, then would that be kind of like what your advice would be for them, or would it be more specific? Like what's one piece of advice that you would kind of?
So for sure, you have to believe in yourself 100%, because you're going to be told no, you're going to be told you suck. You're going to feel like you suck. You're going to feel like you're ugly. You're going to feel like you're too fat. You're too thin. You're too everything. The business is meant to make you feel that way. You have to just know that you have a path and you're going to follow that path at all costs. So don't let anyone take that away from you. Do not listen to other people if they are telling you, your dreams are too big. How many times have I been told that, and when I was a kid, I took that seriously. Like, that's for real. Don't listen to that. But also learn when to say no to things, because especially here in Utah, you'll end up driving to fucking Layton and work for 12 hours and, get paid $50 if you're lucky. And it's probably a cat or a check that, gets bounced or whatever like, it's all bullshit. It's like, you have to say no to some things. You have to, even though in Utah, the jobs are few and far between, and we're trying to get those jobs. Like, you cannot do everything. You have to know that you have to say no to some of those things.
I think that's really sound advice. Because that kind of applies, like with me. I'm easily like a yes man. Kind of a pushover to an extent, but this year especially, it's kind of like recognizing that and like, nah, I kind of want to do my own stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I think the next one that asks me for, like whatever, like maybe I'll see like what are the chances of me getting paid in some form, because it takes out of my schedule of me wanting to watch Impractical Jokers.
Exactly. Well, next time when they ask, the first question you need to say is, how much is your budget?
Seriously.
That needs to be what's your budget? And I'll let you know if I can help you or not, because you're trying to work. But yeah, for sure. Do you think you're an empath?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, so empaths tend to be like that, or I'm the same. Like, you want to say yes, you want to, definitely be a pleaser,
Yeah, and then I was talking to my sister about it too, and I'm like, well, I feel like if I take that route, then like if I apply that to people just in general, like people I don't know, but I'm like, if somebody I know, like personally know, like very close friends with, whatever, I'm like, I probably wouldn't ask for anything. And they're like, but my sister said, like, that's fine, like it's your schedule, you're your own boss. And I'm like, but wouldn't that kind of like reflect poorly on my image? She's like, no. And I'm like, you're kind of right. Like, it's my way.
Like, right, exactly.
It's my no, yeah.
It's your project. If it's something you want to do because you want to have that product done, then you do it for what you want it for,
Yeah.
But definitely don't be giving it for free when it's not, something that you want to do. Or don't be giving it for free anyway.
No, exactly.
Very rarely.
Exactly. Well, Julie, where can people find you when all your work? Did you have any stand-up comedy albums out?
Ow. Not quite. You can. I do have a YouTube channel that has some stuff on it. I think it's just Cordell-Seamons, and that's the same on my Instagram, and that has a link to my YouTube, Cordell-Seamons. Or I'm on IMDb or on Facebook, Julie Cordell-Seamons. So I usually try. My Facebook is a little more political, so not everyone can hang there. Plus, I found out Facebook's for old people, so for the young people, I'm over on Instagram, and I haven't figured out how to TikTok yet. So I'm on there. I just don't know how to. I can only watch. I can't figure out how to do it.
Okay, what do you mean Facebook's more for old people?
That's what I've heard. That's what people are telling me. Yeah, rude. I'm getting my grade covered in a few days. Okay, God.
Well, I'm just like I use Facebook and Twitter. I use Twitter a lot more, probably Facebook, but
Twitter's younger. Twitter's cool. Instagram is, I guess, okay. TikTok's the coolest, but Facebook is not as cool. That's what I've been told. I'm just trying to catch up myself.
I find that weird. I mean, I hate Facebook for other reasons, like Zuckerberg, but I think it's a great idea, and it's great for networking in that sense. So without it, we wouldn't be talking right now, right?
Well, I like it, but I guess that makes me old.
No, you're 25 at heart.
Right? That's what I feel sometimes.
I mean, if we're gonna be pull that what do you want to call it? Pull that cord. 2020, I feel like has aged all of us by 10 years.
For real, seriously.
Like if I don't see gray hairs next year, I'll be like.
Well, and then you can't see your hairstylist, so the gray hair is even worse. So I've got a few I gotta get taken care of. Yeah, I know it's so bad. My 9-year-old's got some gray hair coming in.
Oh yeah,
just kidding.
I was gonna be like, because like my family, gray hair runs super early. I think my dad turned gray before he was 30, so we'll see. I
got my first one at like 24.
Yeah, I think I found some. I have like kind of blonde hair ish as well, so it's like one of those like, lucky. Is this gray or is this blonde or is this just whatever?
That's why I highlight it in blonde, because then I can hide it. It's for real. See, this part's blonde. See, it's been a while, so half of it's blonde and this is brown. I gotta go in. It's rough.
Okay, well, make sure you follow Julie and all those stuff. Check out her works. Follow the podcast if you are not doing that. Even though you can follow me because I post more on that than the podcast page. So, yeah, Julie, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Hell yeah, I'm glad you thought it was fun. I look forward to these. They're fun. Yeah, it's nice to talk and communicate.
Yeah, for sure. It's been fun listening too. You learned some interesting things.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I will hopefully work with you soon. That is a plan of mine. It's on my bucket list. So 2021, yes, here we go.
Yes. Yay. Well, after we get our vaccines.
Okay. Well, I will stay in touch with you then.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.